Now, odds are pretty high that all of you have heard of Adam and Eve. You may also have heard of their first two sons, Cain and Abel. Genesis 4, the first two verses, is pretty clear about this. It reads as follows: Now Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And again, she bore his brother Abel. Now let's think about those two verses just for a moment. Adam knew Eve, his wife. To know a woman in biblical language is to have sexual relations. The word know is sort of a euphemism for sex in the Old Testament. So Adam knows Eve, she conceives, and bears Cain. Sounds pretty simple and straightforward. Cain, of course, was the first person murdered in the biblical story of the early earth. He killed his brother Abel, so things didn't go too well. And you would think, this is a pretty straightforward accounting. Adam and Eve have two kids, they're boys, Cain and Abel, and again, things go bad. But of course, when it comes to the wacky world of fringe Bible beliefs on the internet, nothing this straightforward can actually be this easy. Believe it or not, there are some who believe that Adam was not Cain's father, but instead Cain was fathered by the serpent in the Garden of Eden, Satan. And they even use the verses I just read to prove that idea.
Understand it. The Bible says you'll know the truth and the truth will set you free. And I want to read something to you I know most of y'all have probably never heard. I'm going to read to you an account from Genesis 4. It says, And Adam knew Hava, his wife, who had desired the angel. And she conceived and bare Cain. And she said, I have acquired a man, the angel of the Lord. And she added to bear from her husband Adam, his twin, even Abel. Okay, now let me tell you where that came from. That came from what's called the Targum. Now the Targum predates the King James Bible. The King James Bible was written after the Targum. So if you're looking for the exact wordage or verbiage or translation of what happened in the garden, you're doing better to go look at the Targum, because the Targum is what the rabbinical teachers used to teach everybody as they sat down. They read from the Targum in Aramaic. Now, the King James Bible has evolved from that. It's not the other way around. So,
in addition, the Targum is dated with confidence to the 7th or 8th century AD. That means that Targum Pseudo-Jonathan, which is the lone source for this content insertion, is over 1,000 years after the latest possible composition of Genesis 4. It's a millennium separation.
From Genesis 4 in this King James Bible. It says, And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord, and again bare his brother Abel. Okay, so in these very few sentences, it says, once again, and Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord, and she again bare his brother Abel. It doesn't say she conceived again. They were twins. Now, when you go to the Targum and you just go do a little homework, and Adam knew Hava, his wife, who had desired the angel. Now, this is the serpent we're talking about. And she conceived and bare Cain, and she said, I have acquired a man, the angel of the Lord. And she added to bear from her husband Adam, his twin, even Abel, Habel. Okay, from
the Targum I'm talking about specifically is Targum Pseudo-Jonathan, which says this: Adam knew his wife Eve, who had conceived from Samael, the angel of the Lord. This Aramaic translation adds an interesting note to this in the next verse. Then from Adam, her husband, she bore his twin sister and Abel. The ancient Targum clearly adds details not found in the Hebrew Old Testament that underlie our modern English translations. Nowhere in the Hebrew text is there any hint that Yahweh is Samael or Satan or anyone else but himself, Yahweh. So to conceive a child with the help of the Lord doesn't necessarily point to an alternative father besides Adam. The idea is fabricated in the Targum. The Targum just inserts the idea in these verses and the other ones that we read.